I'm Fred.
And I'm Ted.
And this is Fred and Ted's
Quick and Fast. So we've all heard stories about people whose tires pop as they're driving down the road.
And I know you're sitting there saying that this can never happen to you.
But it can happen to you. It's a very simple situation. It can happen to you.
Oh no, what happened? I think I busted a tire. I'm going to have to call Fred and Ted's Quick and Fast.
We told you it can happen to you.
It can happen to anybody, and everyone has the ability to change their own tire.
We're going to start you off with a little bit of safety tips. Remember, always read your owner's manual for specific directions in changing your tire.
Make sure you pull your car completely over to the side of the road.
Once you're completely pulled off the side of the road, turn on your emergency flashers.
If you're driving a manual transmission, put it in first gear or reverse. That way it won't roll around on you.
Remember, if you don't feel confident in your tire changing abilities, practice in your driveway. Now let's change that tire.
And get you back on the road.
For a Toyota Corolla, this is where you would keep your tire changing utilities in most sedans.
Alright, so we've put bricks in the front and the back of the front tire, so when we jack it up, the car is not going to roll forward or backwards onto us. Safety first.
Okay, before any lug nuts are broken on the tire, you want to have the jack firmly in place, not lifted, firmly in place, just to ensure that it is stable while you break the lug nuts. If it falls off, it'll fall off before any work is actually done. You want to make sure that the tire jack is on a flat surface that prevents any slipping while the tire is in the air. Safety first.
See, right now Fred is breaking the lug nuts. Good way to do that is to step or kick on the tire iron. And that way it puts a lot of pressure on the lug nuts in order to break them. You want to do this before you lift the tire off the ground. That way the tire doesn't roll and rotate as you're trying to break the lug nuts. Safety first. So you've heard me use the term breaking the lug nuts. Breaking is short for breaking loose the lug nuts because they're really tight to hold the tire onto your car. What Fred's doing right now is he's jacking the car up with the jack that's up underneath there. So now the tire is up off the ground now.
Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the lug nuts completely off of the tire. You kind of want to be easy about this. You don't want to take them off too fast or try to be too aggressive because remember the tire is suspended in air. It's really important to take them off opposite of each lug nut. Say if I'm taking this one off, as I'll do for here. You want to be really careful when you pull the tire off to make sure you don't pull the car completely off of your jack.
Alright, here's our spare tire. You want to be careful with putting it on really straight, lining up the holes. And you just go ahead and throw the lug nuts on with your hand. Obviously you're not putting them on very tight. And just like Fred said, with taking it off, you want to put them on and eventually tighten them kind of opposite one another. So from this one, I went down here. All right, now we just get to tighten them up. Like I said, tighten them up opposite one another. That way the tire's going on even.
Next, we're going to lower the jack after the tire is completely fastened. The main thing to remember is to be cautious when you're doing this because remember, there are no guarantees in changing a tire. Safety first. Once the car is on the ground, then you want to make sure that your lugs are tight as they can be because you have the weight of the car on the tire then, and you really have a stable base to where you can really give the tire force to make sure it's all the way tight.
Thanks, Fred and Ted's Quick and Fast. You changed my tire quick and fast.
Well, to recap, first the car was pulled over completely to the side of the road. We turned the emergency lights on and we pulled the emergency brake up.
Next, the jack was securely fastened up under the car on something solid and flat.
Then we loosened the lug nuts. Fred did this by kicking them. Sometimes he's able to do it with his hands, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, kicking the tire iron and loosen those lug nuts.
Next, you jack it up.
Now that the tire is in the air, it would have been terrible to try to break the lug nuts then, but since we've already loosened them, we could just take them the rest of the way off.
Then you replace the tire with your spare tire that you got from your trunk.
Or wherever your spare tire is kept. Put on the new lug nuts. Not new lug nuts, the exact same lug nuts. And we put them on as tight as we could while the tire was still in the air.
But I digress. And we lowered the tire, and we continued to tighten the same old lug nuts. And I'm Fred.
And I'm Ted.
And this is
Fred and Ted's Quick and Fast. Safety first.